Hi, I'm Yael Roberts. I'm Director of Community and Education at Westminster Synagogue, and I have a short message for you on this week's portion. Stuck at home, I've really begun to notice the features of my house. And in my house, there is an avocado plant. The remarkable thing about the avocado plant is that as panic and fear and even tragedy begin to unfold in the world around it, during this unprecedented time, the plant is okay. The avocado plant is growing healthy and happy. Does it even know what's happening? What's its secret to being so well, so strong, so assured? This week's portion is Yael, which means, and he gathered. Here's how it begins. Vayakel Moshe kol adat b'nei Yisrael vayomer alehem, Eila hadvarim asher tziva Adonai la'asot otam. Moses then gathered the whole Israelite community and said to them, "These are the things that the Eternal has commanded you to do." Already we might find this first verse very paradoxical, given our current situation. How do we even step into this notion of gathering when we are so far apart, many of us isolated in our homes, those who are lucky to have homes to be in this time, without a sense perhaps of community and belonging? The Torah continues with the second verse. Sheshi amim ta'aseh melacha, uvayom hashvi'i yihiyeh lachem kodesh, Shabbat Shabbaton ladonai, kol ha'osavo melacha yumat. On 6 days work may be done, but on the seventh day you shall have a Sabbath of complete rest, holy to the Eternal. Whoever does any work on it shall be put to death. And again, I really struggle to begin to apply this verse to these times. Many of us might be working from home, those who are lucky to still have jobs and houses. Most people have stopped going to shops. Many are not taking public transport or commuting. In a sense, each day might begin to feel like Shabbat. So what can we learn from Shabbat about our current situation? The Kedushat Levi, a Hasidic commentator, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev, has an implied question about our verse as well. It says, Uvayom hashvi'i yihiyeh lachem kodesh. On the seventh day it should be for you holy or sacred. The seventh day should be sacred for you. By the way, this is like the collective you, the plural you, for all of you. Why does it say it should be holy for you, not just holy, kadosh, or kodesh? This is his implied question. In effect, he is asking, where are you? Where is the collective you in these times? Where do we find ourselves? In the practice of Shabbat, of staying at home, of resting, where do we find ourselves amidst this panic, this catastrophe that is affecting each of us so differently and to different degrees? What is the Jewish response to lockdown, to a pausing of society and of our lives? The Kedushat Levi begins by quoting a section of Talmud from Pesachim, which deals with our upcoming festival of Passover. The passage in question discusses the difference between festivals like Passover and Shabbat, which happens each week. And it starts by bringing a Breita, a Tanaitic source. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Ein lo la'adam biyom tov, ela o ochel v'shoteh, o yoshev v'shoneh. That on a festival, a person is either doing one of two things, not simultaneously, either eating or drinking, or sitting and learning. Rabbi Yeshua Omer, chelkehu, but Rabbi Yeshua has the opposite approach, divide it up, half the day for eating and drinking, and half the day for the Beit Midrash, for the house of study. So rather than doing one or the other, you do both, but not simultaneously. And Rabbi Yochanan explains that they actually both use these two verses together. One verse they use is atzeret, an assembly, ladonai Elohecha, should be for God. The katuv echad omer, and the other verse says atzeret tiyeh lachem, it should actually be an assembly for you. And this is how they begin to derive. One of them says, okay, let's do one or the other, and the other one says, let's find a way to do both. So we have two verses about the festivals. Either we commit the festivals to us by doing the things that we enjoy, like eating and drinking and that, so on and so forth. Or we commit the festivals to God by doing the things God enjoys, like spending time studying Torah or praying. And alternatively, we divide the festivals in two, spending some time eating and drinking and some time doing Jewish ritual. Shabbat, though, the Kedushat Levi holds is different, and he says, "Uve Shabbat halachem hu gam kein ladonai." On Shabbat, That which is yours is also God's. So we cannot divide Shabbat in half, demarcating some time to us and some time to God. We might even have begun to experience this in the past weeks. For those of us lucky enough to be working from home, to still have jobs and houses, which so many are losing, we are not necessarily able to set aside time for work and time for family. In this situation, the various areas of our lives begin to collapse together. There's not a clear sense of demarcated time with specific tasks and people. Rather, we are being asked to view everything in a more holistic way. Everything we are doing is both ours and God's. And there might be a lot of things we would rather be doing now, some of us. But I have really begun to marvel as I watch my houseplants grow, as I notice the insects in the garden, the way the food cooks itself on the stove, even the sound of birdsong in the background, the taste of coffee each morning, the plethora of resources available online, friends from far away that I can connect with digitally. And as I continue to hear about how this is unfolding around the globe, I am continuously so grateful for that which is mine, that I have food, shelter, health, income. Each of these becomes a miracle, a chance to connect to the moment we are in. And what a wild moment it is. How can we begin to turn everything that is ours, all that which we find in our homes and in those around us, into moments of sacredness? Can this time in which deep grief, panic, and fear are unfolding, and yes, they are, can this time be sacred too, a Shabbat Shabbaton, in which we begin to gather parts of ourselves and those who we find around us and far away from us into our thoughts and prayers for a world in which peace, health, and well-being and care will begin to grow slowly amidst this time of great uncertainty? Because the uncertainty is not God's, it is ours too, and so is the panic and fear. It is ours. We need to own that we are feeling this, and that it is God's, part of a collective moment in human history. It's beyond us. My grandfather passed away a few weeks ago, and I recently listened to a reading he did on his local radio in Huntsville, Alabama, a few years before he passed. And he talks about scams and deceptions and how we play tricks on each other. And at the end of the reading, after puzzling through many cases of trying to figure out whether the things that happened to him were scams or truth, he tells us, "I gave up years ago." This line really stuck with me this week. My grandfather was able to simply give up. It's not that what we need to give up in these times is just kind of giving up, right? That we need to kind of say, I'm not going to continue working or caring for others or doing what's called for. But there might be some things we can give up. Some things that are ours that maybe can find their way back to the universe. Some of this stuff which was never ours can find its way back there too. We can hold less in these times. We can give up just a little as we settle into this miraculous Shabbat together. So wishing you a Shabbat Shalom.